Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What is up, Los Angeles? It's the LA Football Podcast coming to you live from the great state of Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, probably more like 50,000 lakes. Out here vacationing with the family at my grandparents' lake place. But happy to jump on the pod, talk some LA football. And of course, I'm going to be joined again by my good buddy, the coach. What's up, my man? How you doing?
Hey, doing well, dude. How you doing? It's good to see you as always.
Good seeing you. Yeah, it's great. I'm doing fantastic out here. Yesterday I did some fishing, was up late, had to fillet the fish before they go bad. And of course, if anyone knows the Midwest, or at least knows if you live by lakes, there's a bug problem. And so I'm out there at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't get dark here till like 10, which is crazy. Filleting these fish, and I'm just getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So it's good to be back in the great Midwest.
You're right. Yeah. The things we miss when we're gone.
Does Missouri have bad bugs? Because Denver really doesn't. If you go in the mountains of Colorado, obviously if you're new listening to the show, I'm from Denver. The coach is from Missouri. The mountains of Denver have some bugs, but like down by Denver, the mountains of Colorado. But Denver, there's really no bugs. Does Missouri have a lot of bugs?
Yeah, a lot of mosquitoes, a lot of gnats, a lot of things like that. Yeah, especially in the summer and by water.
Yeah. Because Minnesota, dude, you got the deer flies, horse flies, mosquitoes, leeches, ticks. You got it all. We're in the woods out here. Us in LA, when I'm back in LA, we don't really have bugs. The people are the biggest bugs we have. Right?
I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, out here in Orange County, we get a lot of spiders. I don't know if that's a thing in LA, but we have a lot of spiders.
Yeah, I guess we get a lot of daddy long legs at my new apartment.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys. Which I heard don't they like actually eat other spiders, so they're kind of good? Yeah,
if you have a spider in your house, like daddy long leg isn't that bad to have. Is what I've heard. Anyway,
I wonder who like thought of that name. Was it just some like pervert like daddy long legs? Like, you really think about it?
Right. I know it is. It's not like the best sounding name in the world. And
I get they have long legs, but why daddy long legs?
Maybe the dominance over the other spiders got that nickname for it.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm sure there's some scientific term too, and it just
I'm sure
coined daddy long legs, and I wonder who did it. We'll look that up. Maybe next episode we'll let you know how the name Daddy Longlegs came to be. Always educational here on the LA Football Podcast. If you did not know, we are on the LA Football Network, always on the Believe Podcast Network, always brought to you by betonline.ag, the place you need to go to wager, place bets down on all the sports and entertainment. But right now, NBA and NHL playoffs are going, so head there. BetOnline.ag. You can bet prop bets. You can bet money lines straight up on games. Have you been watching either NBA or NHL playoffs at all?
I've caught a few NBA games. Yeah, I've caught a few NBA, but I haven't been watching.
Okay, right now with very little knowledge, who are you taking to win the NBA championship?
I'll say Clippers.
Suns, and we got, I don't even know who's in the East.
It's the Hawks.
Bucks, I know, beat the Nets.
Bucks and the Hawks.
Bucks and the Hawks. That's right. Yeah, Hawks beat the Sixers after a meltdown. Yeah.
I'll say Clippers because Kawhi, but I mean, if CP can play for the Suns, they're pretty dangerous with Booker and all those guys. So I don't know. I think the winner comes out of the West.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the Suns are up 2-0 now. What's funny too is there's like I'm out of the world.
Yeah, I think it's tied. Actually, I don't know though.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. That's awful. But
we can fit. Well, anyway. Head to betonline.ag and bet. This is a football podcast, not a basketball. So don't come to us for basketball advice or hockey advice, which the hockey's been great. Montreal just took a 3-2 lead over Vegas, which I was shocked by. But yeah, if you want to bet on some hockey there too. Or obviously bet on football coming up. Training camp just a month away. You can pick your Super Bowl winners right now. Who's going to win MVP? Who's going to win Rookie of the Year? Place all those bets at betonline.ag. If you head there on mobile or desktop, you get a 50% welcome bonus if you have yet to sign up. All right, today's show, we're going to look at wide receiver, or not even wide receiver, receiving duos. So we did include tight ends, but we're going to take a look at the top receiving duos, the Dyrud dozen. So we'll go through 12 and have some fun with it. Obviously, we're going to feature the LA duos at some point. I assume We both have them in the top 12. Both I think are very good, but I won't, you were more down on McVay than I expected. So maybe you're more down on these LA receivers. I'll just say this. Both of them are in my top 12, but we'll see where they land. So we're going to have some fun with that. Brought to you by our friends at Garrison Brothers. Great whiskey. Head to the link right below. You can buy it Total Wine Bevmo. Garrison Brothers whiskey. Tell them the guys at LAFB sent you. So, Coach, we'll do usual 12 working backwards to 1.
Okay.
You're the guest of honor, even though you're basically co-host now for the last month and a half. Celebrity co-host.
Right.
So I'll let you start. Who is your 12th ranking receiving duo in the National Football League?
Well, they didn't get a chance to play together last year because one of them was hurt really early on, but I think they're going to be one of the top duos in the league in 2021 if all goes well. But for the Broncos, Cortland, Sutton, and Judy. Judy had a pretty productive rookie year. Didn't get to 1,000 yards, but got just shy of 900, caught a few touchdowns. And like I said, Sutton, I think it was an ACL, torn really early on. He saw no action. So now with Cortland Sutton coming back and Judy getting his feet wet during his rookie year, man, I think they're going to be good. And depending on who the quarterback is, whether it be Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, or if the whole Aaron Rodgers things come to fruition, that they're getting the quarterback is going to have a good array of weapons.
Yeah, that's I'll get to them in a second. I have them a little higher, not a lot higher. And again, that's based on a lot of projection, obviously, and whatnot. But my 12, and it's kind of a similar thing. 2 guys. One of them who I think is a top 3 receiver in the entire NFL, so it's weird seeing him this low, but just because we don't know how they'll be as a duo, and this player has kind of fallen off, but I have DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green out in Arizona as my 12, and on paper, this is a top 5. Absolutely. I mean, A.J. Green, one of the greats, but he's just really been hurt the last 2 years. Hopkins, like I said, I think he's top 3 individually, but how they'll be as a duo, whether it's A.J. Green's featured as much, or if we see more Christian Kirk or Andy Isabella or some of the tight ends they have a lot of weapons, and on paper, this is a very good offense. We just have to see it actually play out in, Cliff Kingsbury's system. So I like them a lot. So it sounds probably low. I'm assuming you probably have them higher, or there's a lot of people probably forgot these 2 guys are even playing together. So they might not even think to have them in the 12. On paper, this is top 5, but until we see them play together, until we see if AJ Green is AJ Green, like we've seen in the past, but if he's the AJ Green of the last 2 years, which is not on the field AJ Green, then they're out of the top 12. So that's why I put him at 12, because I had to respect the names, had to respect the greatness that there is, but just not seeing them together yet as a duo. I just have them at 12 and not any higher.
Yeah, no, I can respect that, and I definitely understand where it comes from. I do have them higher, so I'll get more into them a little bit later. So I'll go ahead and go into my number 11, and I went with the 49ers. And this may even be debatable, the duo itself in San Francisco. What is the top duo? For me, it's tight end George Kittle and receiver Brandon Ayuk. I think Ayuk is the higher ceiling guy when it comes to him and Deebo Samuel. I like Deebo. I think he's going to be great in that offense. But, man, and really – some might argue down the road it might be Ayuk and Samuel instead of Kittle and one of those guys. So, but right now it's Kittle and Ayuk. And like I said, Ayuk has all the traits that you want in a top receiver. Kind of say it with a raised eyebrow now, but a lot of good receivers come out of Arizona State. And Ayuk is one of the more recent ones. And I think him paired with Kittle coming off of the injury he had, I think they're going to bounce back really nicely, whether it be Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance bringing him along. That's a good duo.
Yeah, no, it really is. And at this point, Kittle's got to be, the 1A, and then it's, like you said, either Deebo or Ayuk. I wasn't trying to do any disrespect, but I would have them at like 13. I did not have them in the top just because I think both Ayuk and Samuel are, we talked about it pre-air about another receiver, but we both, in my opinion, I don't want to call them a gadget receiver, but they're more of a specific role usage. And that can change. Absolutely. That's just kind of what I saw from last year, what we've seen so far in Deebo's career, and what I saw what Ayuk do more at Arizona State. Not saying he can't become a more well-rounded, every down, not that he's on the field probably every down, but more of a guy that can be like that Robert Woods who can do it all. But I would have them at just 13 or so, but that can, after this season, when we see this offense, if they're healthy and if they really click, I mean, like you said, whether it's Kittle and one of the receivers, whether it's both receivers, they could easily be top 8, top 7, top 5. But just right now, from what we saw from Ayuk's rookie year, Deebo's second year, obviously George Kittle's all world, probably top 3, top 2 tight end, right. But I'd have him at 13 or so. But
Yeah, and for me, I think the Kittle, him being as elite as he is, it brought him up for me. If it, wasn't for him, they wouldn't be on top 12.
Yeah, I get that totally, and I'm sure when I bring up who I have maybe ahead of them, some people will immediately, well, how do you have them ahead of those two guys? And I get that. This is a tough lift, guys. I mean, these are all very good, unless you're putting in like someone that has no business. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these duos can really be within that 12 to 8 range. Like number 8 could probably be 13, and number 13 could be 8. It's real interchangeable, kind of almost who you like style of play a little better, or what you like about their offense better, and whatnot. So at 11, and here's one exactly perfect example that I could maybe get hate, but I have DJ Shark, and I put Laviska Shenault as his number 2. I've been hearing he's absolutely killing it in camp. He's a Swiss Army knife. What he did in Colorado was so fun to watch. We saw a little bit of it display on offense, but we didn't really see him break out. But I think now, and again, me and you are both in agreement, we're not huge on Urban Meyer as a winning head coach, but he still will bring some fun and sparks that offense and get the ball moving, especially now with number 1 overall pick at the quarterback position. And so I think pairing Trevor Lawrence with DJ Shark, we already know how good he is. And then I know Marvin Jones they picked up, so a lot of people probably think he's the number 2, but I just think what I've heard about Laviska so far through mini camps and what I know his potential can be, I just think he's going to be a breakout year candidate in the NFL as a whole, and will be a lot of fun. So I put them at 11, probably more based on projection and just my actual like for Laviska. I think he's just a super fun player. Me and you talked about a lot a few years ago when we were covering the Pac-12. So I have them at 11. We'll see.
Hey, I don't hate it. I would have him at the honorable mention. I would have him probably top 15 at least. But yeah, I like everything you said, and I think that offense could be dynamic. There's a lot of interesting weapons down there, and I don't hate it. I could definitely see where it comes from. Any higher, I would have probably been like easy, but no, 11's okay.
Probably should have done 12 to be honest, but yeah, we'll put in 11. Just before we move on, would you have Marvin Jones as the 2, or do you like Laviska as their 2?
I think Laviska is going to be the 2. I don't know if he's going to be. I mean, and if he's, everything coming out of there is true and he's taken off, then yeah, he's going to be the number 2. Might even be the number 1. Who knows if he's that good?
There you go. We'll see. Love it. So, all right, you're moving into the top 10. Who is your number 10?
Top 10. All right. Well, first LA spotters. I went with the Chargers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams at number 10. Man, I love Keenan Allen. I think he is an elite receiver, and I think he has been for a while. And Mike Williams is a lot of potential with a little bit of flair. And last year I think was his best year of yet. I think that was the best we've seen Mike Williams play, and the weapon he was for Justin Herbert while he was available. But yeah, I think together on paper their skill sets match up so well, and they just gel together, and they're a really good 1-2 combo on the field. You just haven't really seen that all the time, and it's been more so on the Mike Williams end. But they've done enough for me to warrant a top 10 consideration, and for me that's exactly where they are, is number 10. And I think with Justin Herbert coming along and a new head coach, there might be some growing pains, but I still think this is one of the most reliable duos that you want for a young receiver, or a young quarterback, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. I have them a little higher, so I'll talk more on them. But yeah, again, at this top 10 can be real interchangeable. But I'll touch more on them as we get to them at higher. So my 10, I have Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool, who it's an interesting duo, because part of me didn't even want to put them in the top 12. Part of me wanted to put them much higher, because when it was Antonio Brown was the 1 and Juju was able to be 2, Juju was just dominant. But when he became the number 1, I feel like he took a little bit of a step back. But then Chase Claypool just had this amazing rookie season, put up almost 900 yards, 9 touchdowns. So statistically very well. The one knock I had on him was he'd have some games where it was like, 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Another game where he'd have like 2 catches for 30 yards and kind of disappear a little bit. And a lot of that was just kind of some shaky quarterback play as well. But both super young. I mean, Juju, just 21. So, I mean, the potential's there for both of them. And any receivers in Pittsburgh got to be, I think, be in the top 10. Is what they've done over the last decade or so. So we'll see. It's an interesting group, but yeah, I have Juju and Chase Claypool right at 10.
Yeah, that's not bad either. Similar feelings for me in terms of the Jaguars, but I mean, I think the Steelers receivers are better. I would have them also at honorable mention. I don't have them on my list, but I do like Juju. But yeah, the fact that we saw him in a number 1 role, he didn't seem to really gel with that, but hopefully Claypool can slide into that role, and Juju is more situated with that number 2, and that's where we see him at best. And then you throw in Deontay Johnson, Ari Cooper on that group as a whole is just really dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I think it's okay. I think top 10 consideration is warranted for them.
Yeah. As a whole unit, very good. It's just interesting to see how Big Ben will play this year and getting the ball. But both very talented, and obviously the offense complements them both well. And Chase Claypool was one of the big surprises because we all expected Justin Jefferson to be good, maybe not great, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. We all expected some of these other receivers, Jerry Judy, CeeDee Lamb, to be solid. I don't think anyone expected Chase Claypool to be maybe the second best of the bunch or so. At least, again, one season in. A lot can change, but how you played great, so that's why I have him at 10. All right, Coach, number 9.
All right, so here's where I have Hopkins and Green for the Cardinals. Okay. Man, I was really hoping that AJ Green was going to be one of those veteran signings that the Chiefs went after to replace the Sammy Watkins loss, but it didn't happen. It is what it is. But man, AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, on paper, dude, those names carry a lot of weight with them.
Oh yeah.
And with a young dynamic quarterback who's come out and said he's committed to passing more, and Kyler Murray, I think we could see AJ Green as a comeback player of the year. I think he could easily go over 1,000 yards. He could easily go over 1,200. I think he could have a really big year, Pro Bowl type of year. And then DeAndre Hopkins finally has a number 2 receiver if Green can stay healthy, which he's proven he can. I think, given I think it's the workload. If he doesn't need targets, if he doesn't need to carry your offense, I think that's the best. And with Hopkins, he doesn't need to. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one stuff because everybody's going to be focused on Hopkins. So I think that duo, man, is going to be huge with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and it's the first time probably in his career that AJ Green doesn't have to be the number 1, can be the alternate option, which means he may statistically, if he's healthy, have a better year than Hopkins, even though he's the number 2 option. So yeah, if they get that ship right down in Arizona, with that defense too, they're a very dangerous team that I'm kind of surprised isn't getting a little more buzz. I know they have a decent amount, but I think just because last year how they fell apart after a strong start, and there's just question marks at coaching. But if they
the NFC West is tough,
and the NFC West is tough, yeah. But is it even possible if all 4? I think it is now with the 7th team that all 4 teams out of one division can make it. Is that even a possibility? Because you have 3 wild cards, so I think you could.
Yeah, I would have to look into it, but God, yeah, I would think. I would think. I'd have to look into it a little bit more because I can't envision everything. But I'm sure. If there's 3 wild cards, you have 1 division winner. Then if all the records pan out,
basically all their losses would only be able to be in the division. They'd have to win out.
Right? Yeah.
But if they're as good as we all think, like the entire division, that's a realm of possibility. Because 3 should have made it last year, and just the Cardinals fell apart, and then now with the Niners being healthy, so. Interesting. But yeah, that duo is it's a dangerous one. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and seeing how they mesh with Kyler Murray and whatnot. So
yeah.
All right, my number 9. So this is where I put Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy. And I did so because I think Sutton was a young rising star, had over 1,000 yards his last season receiving, was really kind of heralded coming into this last year as a potential, top 10 individual wide receiver. And then Jerry Judy being obviously the 2nd receiver taken in the draft, what he did at Alabama, had some growing pains this last year, had some drop issues, but still finished, like you said, with like just under 900 yards. Like statistically, he actually had a very good rookie season. I think there was just, because of what Denver only winning 5 games, the kind of QB carousel that was going on there, and some drops he had, it was kind of overshadowed. But so if he can be a little bit better and Cortland Sutton stays on his trajectory, you're talking about 2 receivers with over 1,000 yards, each of them potentially hitting double-digit touchdowns. And so I just like the potential a lot. And Cortland Sutton, me and you loved him coming out of SMU, and all I've heard from camp is he's 100% healthy. He feels great. He feels good about the offense and the direction. It'll be his 2nd season as well in this offense. I know he didn't play last year, but he at least went through all of camp, so he knows the playbook well. And I just think this unit has a lot of potential, and the sky's the limit. And that's why I have them ahead of some of the other ones. Again, we're kind of basing it on projections, but just what we've seen from Cortland Sutton so far with inconsistent quarterback play, if they get even a little better, which they will regardless. Drew Lock is going to be better. Whether he's the guy, he will be better. Teddy Bridgewater is consistent. He's not great, but he's going to be a consistent, safe guy. Or if, like you said, they get Aaron Rodgers, then watch out.
Yeah, the AFC West will get real interesting.
Yeah, absolutely will. So that is who I have at 9. You are at 8, correct?
Yes, sir. So I went with I went to the AFC North. You went with the Steelers last time. I'm going to go with the Browns with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. I know OBJ didn't play a lot last year. He got hurt pretty early on. But, man, Jarvis Landry pretty much did things that, proven he could be a guy that they can trust in a number one type of role. And with OBJ coming back and Baker Mayfield, I think he's going to play with more confidence this year than we've ever seen Baker Mayfield play with, which is a scary thought because Baker's a scary dude when he's got confidence. I think he trusts Landry, and I think he needs to build that trust a little bit more with OBJ. But if they can all get on the same page, man, this Cleveland Browns thing that they got rolling, it could be dangerous. And they got a lot more weapons up there than just OBJ and Jarvis Landry. Obviously, that running game is stuff that you just don't see anymore with that offensive line and the two-headed monster. But yeah, don't sleep on the passing game, folks.
So just on pure talent and name recognition, these two I would have top 5 easily. I mean, OBJ by himself, if healthy, we know what he can do. Jarvis Landry is just very consistent, great route runner out of the slot. But based on production, based on health, based on kind of what they're doing at offense over there in Stefanski's system, I had them, they would be my 12B, I guess. I had them surprisingly just out of the top 12 just because when they traded for OBJ, we were like, oh man, this is the duo that's just going to light everything on fire. And they haven't been bad, but we just haven't seen them both together. It's like if one's hurt, the other one does really good or vice versa kind of thing, but we haven't seen both been dominant together. And they absolutely can be. And 3 months from now could absolutely be eating my words. And then they're just lighting the world on fire, like you said, because I think they're going to do more with the passing game this year. And Baker's just getting better and better. But when you have running backs like they have, and you have some other weapons that they have as well, I just don't right now have them above these other receivers who have produced this last season. And again, it's hard because it's, he was hurt, OBJ was, and I have guys like AJ Green, who was hurt also, but he's just done it consistently for so much longer. And OBJ, who I think is talent wise great, but if you really look over his career, it's has a couple really good seasons and he has a couple really bad seasons statistically wise. So we just want to see a little more consistency out of him. But again, I could have him in top 5 and not be mad about it, but going into these, I'm like, I want to see a little more out of them together, not them separate. We know how good they are, but them together, and then I'd put them in. But we'll see.
Sure, I understand that completely.
That was your 8, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so my 8, I went to the Pacific Northwest, and I put DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Again, these guys could probably be higher. Not trying to hate on division rivals with the Rams. Tyler Lockett's a guy that I think it's always kind of disrespected, but he's just a model of consistency. He's always up there in stats, and Russell Wilson's one of my favorite targets. Obviously, DK Metcalf, has taken off since his draft snub or whatever, and is just a freak of nature athletically. But until he does it against the Rams and Jalen Ramsey, I think his career so far, he has 4 total catches. I can't have him above some of these other receivers until we see him dominate some of the great corners in the game, which I think he's done other corners dirty, but till he's done it to Ramsey, who he sees twice a year, 3 times last year because of the playoffs, I just can't have him higher than 8. And I think they'll have great battles for many, many years to come, and I'm sure I'll at one point move them up higher. But until then, I think 8's a good spot for him.
All right, yeah, we'll agree to disagree on that one. I have them, quite a bit higher than number 8. Yeah,
figured most would.
So my number 7, I went with Dallas, and this is another one where you kind of argue who's 1 and who's 2.
Yeah.
But I went with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. For me, I think those are the guys. Michael Gallup is just right behind them, nipping on their heels, but I still think he is that number 3 role. But yeah, Amari Cooper, man, he's one of the best receivers and a guy that really is underrated in my opinion. I don't think he gets talked about enough.
Yeah.
And I really,
especially playing for who he plays for. It's surprising to talk about not as much.
Yeah, it is very surprising. And, he was productive in Oakland. Yeah, he was never in Las Vegas. And then he got traded or signed with Dallas and resurgence in his career. He's proven that he is a guy that could be trusted. He's an elite guy. And now he's got a second-year man coming up with CeeDee Lamb. Last year, these guys were effective, and they amassed over 2,000 receiving yards together as a duo. The touchdowns weren't necessarily there, only 10, but the yards was. So hopefully with Dak coming back, they can get the scoring on the board and they can start rolling with that offense again. But Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are my number 7.
Yeah, this is the first one we almost had, exactly. First one and maybe the only one we almost had. I had them at 6. So one up. I'll just go ahead and talk about them, and then I'll tell my 7 afterwards, and then you can do your 6 after I do my 7.
Cool.
Just because it's so close. So yeah, I have Amari Cooper, and I did CeeDee Lamb also as the number 2. Kind of the exact same reason. Michael Gallup's great, but I think what we saw from CeeDee, his draft stock, from what we saw his rookie year, the sky's just the limit for this kid. And you could argue, he had not statistically, but close to as good of a year as Justin Jefferson, just because of what he was able to do in Dallas with, losing his star quarterback and then having, backups and just what he was able to do route running wise, obviously not taking anything away from Jefferson, who had a historic year for a rookie receiver. Yeah, you said it all basically. Amari Cooper, I don't think always strange. He doesn't get talked about a lot. I know he's had some drop issues early in his career. Seems to be much better with that. They both complement each other very well. Yeah, I think you hit everything you need to say. So that's why I have it 6. And then at 7, this is where I put the Chargers receiver, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Keenan Allen to me is a top 5 quarterback or top 5 receiver. Excuse me. I just think he's such a good route runner, has such pure hands. If you need a third down conversion, he's going to get it for you. Like, he's the guy. If you're in the red zone and, you don't feel comfortable with your tight ends, he's the guy to get it for you. And then Mike Williams, just that dynamic kind of player, the jump ball guy. I would have them maybe higher, but Mike Williams, I don't think has ever had over like 45 catches in a season. So if you're the number 2 dynamic duo, I think you need to have a little more than 45 catches in a season to do that. And part of that's been his health. Part of that's just been kind of the scheme. So it'll be really fun to watch what he does now. And, this Brandon Staley / Joe Lombardi new offense, kind of Saints offense, if you will, what he's able to do. But Keenan Allen, is going to be your 90 catches, 6 touchdown minimum, usually more. And then if Mike Williams can get above that 40 to 50 to 60 threshold of receptions, then they could even bump a little higher. But yeah, you said it. They complement each other so well because they're very different style receivers. Both fun to watch, both sure-handed. I mean, the acrobatic catches Williams makes are always one for the highlight reel. The one he had against the Saints early in the season was fun. So yeah, I have them at 7, just a little higher than you, but I think for the same reasons. Yeah, you can comment if you want, or just move on to your 6.
No, I like that. I like that. I respect that a lot. I think they're like I said, they're in the conversation for that. And a lot of these are interchangeable, like we said at the beginning of the show. So my number 6, staying in LA, I went with the Rams, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I think I wanted to put them top 5. I really did. I just couldn't with the other groups in there. And one of them you're going to shake your head and disagree with me with, but with, both of them combined, they're just so sneakily good. Like, you never think of Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods as like the top receivers in the league or whatever. But somehow, like, they've come together and they've formed this bond, and they've given the Rams a top receiving duo. And the fact that they were just short of 2,000 total yards, and really touchdown wise, they don't put a lot of numbers up. So hopefully I think that'll go up with Stafford. But man, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, sneakily good individually. And then when you put them together, they're just that much better.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you have them there. Again, we were so close to having the same. Like I said, I had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb at 6, and I actually have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp at 5, who, as you said, they're just sneakily good. They don't get talked about nationally a lot. Obviously, Rams fans love this duo. I truly believe, and a lot of people think this, I truly believe had Cooper Kupp not been injured in 2018, the Rams would be Super Bowl champions. It was such a close game with the Patriots anyway, a 7-point game. The Rams offense just could not get it going. You had a big drop from Brandon Cooks in that game. And maybe if that was Cooper Kupp, that's a touchdown. And obviously he said, she said is, not how you win games, but that's how important he is to this offense. And that's how consistent they both have been. Both are great route runners. They both get you, third down conversions when you need them. They're not burners, but they're faster than they look. They can run jet sweeps, which they do a lot in McVay's offense. So love what they do. And they've done it every year. I mean, since Kupp has been drafted, they're always in that 1,000 yard threshold. One year they were both over 1,000. Like you said, just last year, they were just under at like 950 each, basically. They're always like tit for tat and touchdown. So they're like a true duo where they're literally like mirror images of each other almost. Not exactly in how they run and whatnot, but just in their production. They're like mirror images. And it's not like these duos where one guy's pulling the other guy and you're like, okay, I'll put them higher because this guy's so good. They're like a true just duo. And I think that's why they fit here at 5 as my Brewery X Factor. Top 5, we get into the top 5 receivers. So who do you have at 5?
So my number 5, I went with the Vikings, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. We've talked about Jefferson a couple times already, but yeah, just the immediate impact this guy had for Minnesota, and the fact that, receiver isn't the easiest position to play and transition to from college to the NFL. But man, Jefferson made it look easy, and everybody was worried about Stephon Diggs not being there, and how are they going to replace that production? Well, Justin Jefferson answered that question pretty loudly. So yeah, Jefferson, and I haven't even started to talk about Thielen. Thielen is one of the most reliable receivers and has been since he's been in the league. But I like them together. I like Jefferson's edge. I think it pairs well with Thielen's professionalism, and the way they carry each other are different, but they're both leaders of that team, and I love it. I love them together. Oh
yeah, I have them just a tiny bit higher, so I'll touch on them in a second. But first, is there a trade that's worked out better for both teams than that Stephon Diggs to Buffalo, where, the Vikings got some draft picks, ended up taking Justin Jefferson, who replaced him well, and Stephon Diggs obviously had an absolute monster year with Buffalo. Can you think of a trade off the top of your head that's been better for both teams? Like
off
both
the top
teams
of my head,
winners.
Yeah, off the top of my head, no. I mean, that was both teams benefited. Both teams are in good spots, and the players involved are in good spots as well. So yeah, it's wonderful.
It was like the best for all parties involved. So kudos to that. So my 4, I put Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, super talented guys. They did good with Jameis Winston. Obviously they did good with Tom Brady. So I don't think it was that, if anything, they statistically were even a little worse with Tom Brady, because he just spread the ball around a little more. And they didn't sling it quite as much as they did when Jameis was there. So, but as far as athleticism, Mike Evans off the charts. I think, I can't remember what he did last year, but he was one of those guys that had 1,000 yards receiving every year since coming to the NFL for like the first time, either ever or in many years. I don't know the exact stat, but there's some like crazy number there where he hit 1,000 yards every single year. Chris Godwin has just been very, very good since coming out of Penn State in the second round. Both super young still. Both, I think, just signed contract extensions, so they'll be in Tampa for a long time. Godwin last year surprisingly had some drop issues. I know he's been so sure-handed, and I feel like every game last year they brought that up. He dropped like a slant over the middle. But these two overall are just super talented, and you try to match up on one of them, and it's the other one's gonna have a monster game. So both of them, and I have them at 4.
Yeah, so I have them a little bit higher. So I'll touch on them a little bit later. But yeah, you said a lot of good things. So my number 4 now is Seahawks. This is where I put DK and Tyler, man. Okay. Man, for them to, as a duo, to go over 2,300 yards and 20 touchdowns combined, and pair them with Russell Wilson, that's dynamic as hell, man. And the fact that they need to shore up that offensive line, but the fact that these guys are both fairly young, and Tyler Lockett wasn't as effective really until DK got there. Tyler Lockett was dangerous in the return game. Tyler Lockett was dangerous in the slot. He was effective. But DK Metcalf is now in the picture. Now Tyler Lockett's really getting the best benefit of DK being in town, because Tyler has a skill set that needs that sort of receiver that can take a lot of the attention away. So I think DK coming to town really helped Tyler Lockett. And now this duo, I think, is going to be really dangerous for a long time. There's a reason they locked both these guys up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because they're a true duo in the sense, and maybe to the detriment of that, and you can say it, argue it in a different way, but maybe that's why I had them a little lower. I just don't see Tyler Lockett, who's very, very good, but I just don't see him in the same breath as some of these other receivers. But then it's like, okay, well, if you want a true duo, so it's a tough argument, and sure. I think 4 is totally fair. Yeah, I have them at 8, which might be very low for other people. I think I just preference. I like some of their duos better, but you can't understate what they've done together last year and what probably DK Metcalf is going to do to the NFL for many years to come if he just gets better and better, because he has the stuff you can't teach, the size, the speed, the hands. So if he just shores up some other things too, he could end up being a top 3, top 4 receiver in the game. And it's still just shocking to me that all the hype he had and then randomly fell to the second round. I fell in the laps of the Seahawks.
All because of a cone drill.
It's the dumbest thing, dude.
It really is. It's unbelievable. Worked out for the Seahawks.
Paralysis by overanalysis, right? As our good buddy said.
I love it.
Makes no sense. So, okay, so I'm on to my 3. And this is where I had Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Always loved Thielen when it was Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. I had them always as like a top 3 duo. And then Justin Jefferson gets drafted and basically is like a clone of Stephon Diggs. Like this thing's so similar. Had an unbelievable rookie season, as you said. And then Thielen's just your model consistency. Just he's not the fastest, not the strongest, not the tallest, but doesn't drop balls. He gets first downs and you need him. He's Mr. Reliable. He, knows the game. He has good football IQ. He's a great story, being a walk-on from Minnesota State right here in the great state of Minnesota, where I am located currently. So yeah, I love both of them. And it's gonna be hard for Jefferson to replicate what he did his rookie year, which is crazy to say. Obviously Justin Herbert has the same factor going into his second year. But regardless, this duo is so good. And a reason why Kirk Cousins keeps making, about $30 million a year. So he has a lot to be thankful for with those two, and before him with Diggs and Thielen.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Kirk Cousins has benefited a lot from good receivers. Yeah. So my number,
I don't know why I'm a big Kirk guy, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I think he's a middle of the road dude. I think he's getting worse, but I mean, he's better than a lot of other guys.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So my number 3, I went with the newest duo in town, Julio Jones and AJ Brown, for the Titans. Excited to see these guys. Not excited that they're in the AFC. But man, Julio Jones has been one of the most fun and effective and elite receivers that has been in the league ever. And there was a time when Julio and Calvin Johnson were going head to head to see who is the top dog, man. Well, now Calvin Johnson, I feel like he's been retired for at least 5-6 years, and Julio Jones is now getting signed by a new team, and now everybody's talking about a Super Bowl run. So it's Julio Jones could go down as one of the best receivers in the game ever. And I think he's getting into the Jerry Rice conversation of just ageless wonder. And hopefully, I know he's battled injuries recently, but with this new look in Tennessee, I think his best partner yet. I know he ran with Roddy White for a while. But AJ Brown, Calvin Ridley, but I think AJ Brown, where they are now, I think A.J. Brown's better than Ridley was when they played together. So, yeah, I think Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are going to be an unbelievably threatening passing attack. And with Derrick Henry, you got to account for him. So, what are you going to do? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do.
Yeah, that was your 3. Everything you said I agree with, and it's why I have him at my number 2.
Nice.
A.J. Brown, who has just been great since coming in, even – you could argue even better than DK, and it's crazy those guys were on the same team. And how that Ole Miss team was not better, it's unreal to me. I guess quarterback play, but he's been fantastic. You said everything about Julio, a surefire Hall of Famer, a potential number 2 behind Jerry Rice, or depending how long he plays, maybe he even supplants Jerry Rice as greatest receiver, even if it's not statistically, just because of what he is as an athletic specimen. And sometimes if you just watch football, you can say, yeah, that guy is just better than that guy, regardless of stats. They're going to be fun, man. I mean, the only thing that can derail the Titans at all is the fact that they have a new OC. I mean, all he needs to do is just not change what they've been doing, but you never know when you get that new coach. Sometimes things are a little bit off. I hope that's not the case for them after losing Arthur Smith to the Falcons, but that's really the only thing that can derail them, because Tannehill's playing great, his best football. You mentioned Derrick Henry, and obviously now you add Julio Jones to this offense. They did lose their tight end in Jonnu Smith. So they need to get another guy to step in there. But, you got Taylor Lewan. I mean, it's a solid team. Their defense is going to be better because they played really bad for a Mike Vrabel-led defense last year. So this Titans team is a very solid team that's been in the playoffs the last 2 years. And you add Julio Jones to that roster, man, look out. That duo is nasty.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
I'm curious who you're – okay, never mind. I think I know who, but go ahead. Who's your 2?
So my number 2 is Evans and Godwin. I think just the timing of they both, like Mike Evans is that seasoned veteran now. Like he's been around long enough to where he's almost seen it all. And now Chris Godwin is entering that phase in his career where this is his prime. He is as good as he's ever going to be. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, man, I don't know if there's a duo better when just pure receivers. And that's probably showing my hand at number 1, which I think everybody knows who number 1 is anyway. Yeah. But yeah, man, and you mentioned a lot about what they do together, and I agree with all of it. And the fact that they play with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, who's a really good offensive mind. Man, I look for them to have a really big year, and the Bucs are going to be dangerous again, man. They brought a lot of their defense back, but Evans and Godwin, the offense is going to be everything through them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And they open things up for guys like Scotty Miller, who all of a sudden has like a solid season. You're like, who? And it's like, because when you have horses like that on the outside, someone's going to be open. And usually it's guys that we'd never heard of that end up having 600-yard seasons. So number one, we both got the same. I'll let you lead off because it's your team, and then I'll just agree with you basically.
Yeah, man. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. I don't know what can be said that hadn't been said about them already, but let's give it a shot. They darn near amassed 2,700 yards. They got 2692 together, 26 touchdowns which the second next on the list was 21, and that was Jefferson and Thielen. So they're just light years above everybody else. I think they're 1, 2, and 3. To be honest with you, I'm a homer, obviously, but no. In all in all reality, and in all honesty, in all fairness, they are just the best duo in the league, and they've proven that. The way that Tyreek Hill not only blows the top off of an offense, but he can make the third down tough, gritty catch as well. The slant across the middle, and then Kelce opens up the stuff. Hook the curl area, then he can run that post. Both of their skill sets are so versatile for their positions.
Yep.
The pairing, they would both be elite with other teams, but them together, it's lightning in a bottle, and I don't know if it's ever going to be replicated. Just the fact that their skill sets are just so good individually, and then put them together, I don't know how a defense can stop it. Well, obviously Tampa learned how, but yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if the Rams and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, like I said, are like the perfect like mirror duo,
right.
Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are the exact opposite, whatever you would call the opposite.
Yin and
of
yang, yeah.
A mirror window, I guess. I don't know.
Well, they're the perfect yin yang.
Yin yang, yeah, because they're just do things so well, but so different. Obviously, the obvious one is the size, but then their route trees, they can run everything, but just the route trees they do in that offense and Andy Reid's offense. And if it's third and intermediate, it's like a guarantee first down. If you're hitting the curl with a zone curl where Kelce's picking the empty spot, or you're hitting some speed option route to Tyreek Hill, and it's game over. I mean, that's why they convert third downs so well and so good. It's a frustrating duo to have to play against. Obviously, the Chargers do it twice. Obviously, my Broncos do it twice. And the only way you do stop them is what Tampa did, which was able to get after Patrick Mahomes. And a lot of that was because of the offensive line, because otherwise you really can't stop them. Because if you double or triple Tyreek, then Kelce's going to kill you. If you do what I say and, you put a corner on Kelce just because no linebackers covering him, unless you have a really good cover safety, he's going to go over the top and be able to, reach over them at his 6'6" frame. So they're so good. And then Hill's just so fast and can do it all. And obviously when you have the best quarterback in the game, that helps. So, this is our third rankings we've done now together. Obviously you're biased because it's your team, but I've agreed with you on every one. The fact that the Chiefs have the number one quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, the number one coach in Andy Reid, and now the number one receiving duo in Kelce and Hill. There's a reason why they've gone to back-to-back Super Bowls, and a reason why everyone heralds them as the favorite for the last 3 to 4 years, and the reason why they'll be very good for the next decade. And regardless of what they have on defense and pieces they lose, when you have those 3 units together, they're going to be competitive for a long time.
Yeah. I don't hate to say it, but I love that you're right.
Yeah. You better not hate to say it, because I'm not going to say it very often. So
I know, right? Yeah, we need to mark this down, stamp it.
Yeah, I think teams, and I honestly believe it's not just saying it because I don't like the Chiefs. I do think teams are catching up in trying to, whether they're copycatting them or whether they're trying to do things better to slow them down on defense, because we've seen a little bit of, the Chargers defenses have slowed them down, didn't win. Mm-hmm. Vic Fangio's defenses have slowed them down, didn't win. But so things will catch up, but they're still going to be damn good and competitive. They just may not be the Super Bowl winner every year, which they weren't last year. So
yeah, the better you are, the longer you play, and they've made 2 Super Bowls, so they've played, that 30-something games in 2 years. There's a lot of film on them now. Like there's a lot of evidence out there on how to maybe crack the code against these guys. So yeah, everything you're saying is right.
Do you think, last thing we'll say on them, because I don't want to talk too much Chiefs. I just can't.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand.
I just can't handle it. But do you think they have the potential, and trying to take bias out of it, just looking at
for sure,
and everything? Do you think they have what it takes to become the next Patriots dynasty, or was that once in a lifetime seeing a 2-decade dynasty like the Patriots had?
Yeah, that's really tough to say. With Patrick Mahomes,
on that, I'm sure.
For sure. So I'll just say this, make it short and sweet. With Patrick Mahomes they're always going to be a contender. They're going to be real, but he's going to lose Hill. He's going to lose Kelce, and eventually he's going to lose Andy Reid.
Yeah.
So life without those guys is going to be interesting to see how Mahomes and the Chiefs do. Like I said, they're going to be contenders, but are they going to be this good for as long as everybody thinks? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they'll be not just competitive, they will be a contender until Mahomes retires. They'll be vying for the AFC West division. If they don't win it, they'll be a wild. I mean, I can't see them missing the playoffs for maybe once in Mahomes' carear, but I honestly don't think we'll ever see a dynasty like the Patriots ever again. And partially that, and I don't want to take anything away from Mahomes, part of that is the fact that Brady was never the highest paid quarterback. I mean, every year he was middle of the road, taking less money, so Bill Belichick could build his defenses because they had a top 10 defense every year. And then they had kind of these sub-rate receivers at bottom of the system where I know your money guy, I know Brett Veach is your GM, but your money guy, I know he's a genius, but at some point that $45 million a year is going to hurt the cap a little bit that Mahomes is making. And again, they're going to be competitive, but will they be a 20-year dynasty with, 6 Super Bowl appearances or whatnot?
Right. And they're built very differently. They're built very differently than those Patriots teams were. And the way the Chiefs are built, offensively driven, that's hard to sustain for a long time.
Yeah. But we'll see. It'll be fun to watch.
We'll see. Yeah.
The Broncos and Chargers trying to get relevant again. Raiders are going to Raiders, so we didn't need to mention them. And then you have, like we mentioned, the AFC, the Titans are getting very good. The Bills now are very, very good. The Browns on paper, again, not saying Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey, but team top to bottom, Browns may be the best team in the AFC West or AFC on paper.
They might. It's arguable that they definitely have the best roster. Yeah.
Yeah. From top to bottom. So, Well, there you have our Dyrud dozen wide receiver duos, top 12. Let us know what you think. I'm expecting some hate on mine. I think I will. I think yours, I like yours. Yours were good. Obviously, I wrote mine, so I agree with mine. But there's some tough, it's my opinion, but there's some tough sells in there. I understand, like not having Jarvis and OBJ in the top 12. I get having the DJ Shark and Laviska Shenault in there. Yeah, so let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. Myself is Ryan Dyrud. LAFB, you can find the coach at Coach Graff 34, the main account at LAFB Network. Let us know what you think. Obviously, subscribe wherever you listen or on YouTube at LAFB Network. Huge shout out to Brewery X and Garrison Brothers, sponsors of the LA Football Podcast. And a big thank you to you, Coach, for taking time out of your day to jump on with me. So appreciate you as always. What you got planned the rest of the day?
I think we have some wedding stuff that we need to get hammered out. That's coming right around the corner.
Woo! Almost there, baby.
I think I could pretty much say that every day. We got wedding stuff to do. So yeah, that just pretty much that. Just tying up loose ends.
Good stuff, man. Well, we're excited for that. It's coming right up. But yeah, thanks again. Appreciate you. And
I appreciate you anytime, my man.
Always. Yeah, we'll be doing a lot more of this throughout the summer. So, and probably and beyond. So good stuff there. So thank you all for listening and watching wherever you are. We will talk to you and see you soon.